What up, and welcome to the Roundtable. I am your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. What is going on today, brother?
Just still recovering from whenever it's a long weekend, I'm messed up for like a couple days. But got some golf in today, starting to feel a little regular. I understand you went out and set a course record at Bethpage on Monday.
Haven't gotten out there yet to Bethpage, and there's certainly no record set besides maybe how many bad shots you can hit from 80 yards and in. I think that might have been a record. But yeah, I went out golfing for the first time on Monday, so took advantage of the full weekend. It was super nice here too. So I got a little farmer stand going, a little golf stand that I call it now. So yeah, it was good to get out. I know you played today too.
Yeah, man, we grew up playing, but it's fun to see everything. Everywhere's packed, which is cool and also sucks. It's like I want to be able to get around here in about 2 hours, but I'd rather have more people playing the game.
Yeah, that's true. And you want your friends to always get better too. I'm like at the stage right now,
But not too good though. Like
not
just
where they're kicking your ass.
good enough that they're gonna shoot like mid 80s, and then that's where I want them to. That's the plateau.
Exactly. You still need to be the ringer in the group. That's the thing.
If I'm not the best player on the scramble team, then what are we doing here?
You
Why
find
am
a
I
new
here?
team. That's what we do.
Yeah, I gotta go find somebody else.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you guys listening. I'm sure, as you're well aware, we're going to be going hard into the NBA Finals because Tyson, we already got it. We got our matchup. I think, quite honestly, it's the best we could ask for. Besides, I mean, obviously we're Sixers and Suns fans, but as we got closer to the conference finals, I think this is the best matchup we could ask for after watching the teams right now. So, I mean, if you're living under a rock and listen to us, and if you're not aware, well, we got Warriors versus Celtics starting Thursday. Warriors have home court advantage. It's a 2-2-1-1-1 format. And so I think home court advantage is going to be actually a pretty big deal in this series. But Tyson, I mean, just first initial thoughts. Celtics won Game 7. Okay, they're playing the Warriors. What was going through your mind?
I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, and you know me. You've known me for a long time. I don't get off of takes, right? Like I was going down with the Emmanuel Mudiay ship. That thing was stinking. I was the only one left. Um, Halfway through the season, I was looking at Boston and I was like, I don't think this thing is working. Like, I don't know. And then as I got off that one, probably with a month left in the regular season, we were talking. I was like, these guys are really, really good. And they've been my team in the Eastern Conference that I thought was going to make it out this whole time. I am beyond impressed with what they did in the Game 7 against Miami. I've been beyond impressed with them all playoffs long, really. I mean, it's just been a gauntlet that they've had to go through, and it doesn't get any bigger, right, than 6 out of the last 8 finals, the best offensive player of the generation. And we'll get into some of the talk here, but the one I've been hearing the most is, does a win here make Steph Curry a top 10 all-time NBA player?
Oh, man.
And I thought he might have already been knocking on the door. So I don't know. I mean, if we're picking a starting 5, man, you can have Magic. I'm taking Steph.
Sure, man. I'm certainly not picking Steph, but like
I'm
you said, we'll
taking
get
Steph.
into it. We'll get it. And like you said too, man. I mean, you definitely don't come off of takes, and neither do I really. I mean, obviously we'll adjust like when information comes, but to that Moutier point, I was a Dion Waiters guy as well. Like once we got guys, we
I was
kind of
taking the
stick with that
Moutier
side.
ship to Waiters Island.
Yeah,
So we
that's
link up.
exactly what it is. Yeah. But I mean, we had a topic on this show. What was it? I mean, in 2021, definitely before Christmas, when it wasn't working. Like, is it time to break up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? And that was a topic across the sports talk media. You were definitely on the side, like, oh, it's time to ship has sailed. I believe I was as well. Like, dude, you got to trade some picks. I think we threw some names out there who would be a good fit there. It has been impressive to see how they've turned this thing around. Udoka has been awesome since they were down in the tank, basically. They bought into him. They trusted what he was doing. And like you mentioned, man, since the All-Star break, they've been the best team in the NBA.
Yep.
And they kind of stayed under the radar. Like, I don't really know how good it is because people don't want to come off their takes about, well, the Celtics were bad early. It's like, it's not early
Nets,
anymore.
who cares if they're going to be they're in the play-in? Who cares? It's the Nets. Like, well,
Yeah, and so I think this is going to be a good matchup with the Warriors, and obviously the Warriors. They started off really hot with Curry, and you kind of said, well, if Clay comes back healthy, this is going to be a really dangerous team. Then Poole stepped up, and it looked really dynamic. And obviously, it kind of fizzled out a little bit. Grizzlies overtook them. Suns were just the best team in the West all season. Playoffs, the Warriors just decided, hey, I'm going to flip a switch. We're going to show you how good we are again. And
it
you're like,
fell
oh
perfectly for
man,
them too, though. In the
it did.
playoffs, they got dream matchup after dream matchup there.
Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
quick
But now
work,
we have it.
everybody, though.
Yeah, I mean, but now we have it. We'll have our predictions at the end of probably at the end of the podcast, right before our gambling segment. So pay attention to that because we're going to go through a bunch of stuff here as we always do. We're going to break things down. We're going to give you an idea of kind of what we're expecting in this series. And so when you're watching, you can follow along with us and see if we're right or not. But Tyson mentioned, is Steph Curry the best player in the series? Jason Tatum's certainly been playing like it right now. For you, Tyson, when you look at this on paper, what we've seen, we're not talking historic. I don't think we are. I mean, maybe you can account for that or put that into your answer. But who is the best player in your opinion in this series?
I think the best basketball player right now left is probably Jason Tatum for what he's done in this playoffs. But that's if we're talking right now, based on the last 2 months of data. If I have to pick one of these guys on my team for this series, if you lined up, all 10 starters, Steph Curry is number one pick. Right? I mean, like you can't go any other way. I can't talk myself into it. And Tatum's been awesome on the defensive end. He's been hitting the glass hard. He's shooting his ass off. But it's got to be Steph, man. Like it's still he's the boogeyman. You say his name 3 times, bad shit is about to happen. Like this dude, I think that Jason Tatum has played better basketball over the last couple months, but I think Stephen Curry, the gravity, the unselfishness. I mean, this is like kind of shades of like 2015, 2016, where it was like, this guy's really good, but he sits every fourth quarter because they're beating the shit out of people. His numbers, he might be averaging 35 if he was playing 40 minutes a game. I think what Steph's done has been really impressive. And like I said, if you line up 10 guys, Steph's the first pick.
Yeah, to your point too, it's not like he has to do it too. I mean, like we said off the top, Clay's back and he's playing well, and you'll have a discussion about Klay Thompson in a little bit. Jordan Poole has obviously stepped up. Andrew Wiggins, that looks like the guy who's taken number one overall. I mean, he hasn't had to carry the load here. To your point, maybe we'd see a lot more gaudy stats if he had to. And yeah, he may be the first pick, but if I'm picking first, I'm picking Jason Tatum. I think he's the best player in this series. Like you kind of said, if we're talking right now, if we're looking at the body of work, what we've seen in the playoffs or a recency bias, I'm going to go with Tatum. He's proven to be a elite get a bucket guy. He can score on anybody. He scored on the Bucks Vonta defense. Yeah, it didn't slow him down. He eviscerated the Nets. We're talking about the Heat. They throwing guys at him. We saw what they did to the Sixers. We saw what they did to the Hawks. Jason Tatum played an extremely good Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, Jaylen Brown was right there with him. Jason Tatum obviously winning the Eastern Conference MVP award there. The new one, the Larry Bird was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
It's so stupid.
Hey, it's just more things to bet on.
Yeah.
I'm taking Tatum. I mean, he's a good rebounder, very solid rebounder. He's become much more of a playmaker as well. Not as much as a one-on-one guy. He will pass the ball and give you assists. And he's stepped up his defense. He's much more versatile on defense than Curry. He's a better defender than Curry. So I'm going to go as the best overall player. My number one pick would be Jason Tatum in this series.
Where does Jason Tatum rank in the NBA?
See, I think that's a different conversation, which sounds like asinine. We're like, what the hell are you talking about? It makes no sense. But I think you can rank somewhere in the NBA as like, okay, LeBron's still up there. But I mean, right now, who would you rather have, Jason Tatum or LeBron? You know what I mean? Like,
Jason
or
Tatum,
would you rather have?
Where this is like KD or Jason Tatum?
Probably Durant still.
Let's see here. Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum.
I mean, I'll take Joel Embiid, but I don't think it's as close. That's far apart as people think.
Giannis isn't in the discussion. Jokic
No,
probably isn't in the discussion. I just
probably not.
he's a tough
I'd rather have
guy to
I'd rather
place.
have Tatum over Kawhi.
Well, because one of them's going to play. That take might be different in 7 months.
True,
That's tough
true.
to say. I mean, Tatum is solidly above like the Devin Booker tier, right? But it's for some reason it's hard to talk yourself into him amongst those top 5 guys. But his
Yep,
numbers suggest he might be a top 5 guy.
right. And especially if you don't just have to look at the raw stats because that's one thing we don't like to do
No, watch him
when
play the games.
we watch him play the games and it's like, man, his stats look good. But you're like, watching him play, it looks even better.
It's just
He's
easy.
constantly impacting. It's so easy for him.
It blows my mind. Like it honestly reminds me of a young Durant. And just like on offense, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if he's in his bag, if he gets in that zone, it's 30. And it's not Steph hitting 7 threes and lighting you up. It's I'm gonna back you right down here, and then I get whatever I want. It doesn't matter. It's demoralizing, is what it is. The way that he can play offense is devastating, and I think that he's on the verge of becoming the best offensive player in the NBA. Like I think you could put KD's obviously still up there. Luka's insane, but
Mm-hmm.
Jason Tatum is in the discussion.
Absolutely. And I think he shoots the 3 ball better than Durant does now. Yeah, we
Yeah,
saw that in the Nets game. I mean, he's a mismatch. And they said it. I mean, you said it reminds me of a young Durant. You're watching that game. Tatum's just hunting those
yeah.
mismatches, and he's, I think, a little physically more gifted and stronger, more athletic than Durant. And the physicality of any of these series have not weighed on Tatum. The Celtics beat the shit out of Durant, and you're like, dude, you're a veteran. Like, you should be used to this. I mean, he got pushed around, and you expect that the same thing to happen to Tatum because he's kind of looks a little slim. Maybe you can push this guy around a bit. The Bucks certainly tried, and that didn't happen. And so I think you're right. And Jason Tatum is on the verge of really, really becoming a superstar in this league.
I'm still taking Steph, but I think by game 3 I might have a different opinion. I mean, this is a guy that like he's been the chosen one. I mean, I remember we were talking when he was going number 3 in the draft, and it was like, what are you doing?
Oh
This guy,
well, I mean the Sixers, Jesus. I mean, dude, I wanted him to take Tatum. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I'm a Duke guy, but I'm like, that means I've watched every single Duke game. I know how good this guy is. I'm like, this is a #1 pick. This is what it looks like. No, we're gonna
Marco
go take
Fultz and
Markel
Lonzo
Fultz,
Ball.
and we're gonna trade up to go get him. Appreciate it, guys.
Trust the process, buddy.
Yeah, trust the process. Oh boy. But speaking of Steph, we're talking legacy. I think that's player wise. That's where I think most of the attention is going. If the Warriors win, what does this do for Steph's legacy? What does this do for Steve Kerr's legacy? We're not even talking really about the Celtics angle of it, which I want to touch on. But let's talk about the legacy. Who benefits the most? And I think clearly for me, it's got to be Steph Curry. I think you're living under a rock if you don't think that's who's going to benefit the most as a player from this. I think maybe you could say, you could maybe say Steve Kerr. I mean, just because that puts him on a pantheon of great coaches, a dynasty coach, yada yada. But I think for me, it's got to be Curry. Hasn't had that NBA Finals MVP. That's something he's chasing to really validate. And I'm putting that in air quotes to validate. Oh, how good of a playoff performer is this guy? The other thing about it is too,
Andre
in
gets
regards.
all at one name.
Oh my god, yeah. The other thing about it too is I think people kind of forget like when the first championship that the Warriors won when it was just that young Splash Bros team, Curry and Clay. In a lot of basketball people's minds, bringing Kevin Durant over for those next 2 championships invalidates a lot of what was done before, which I think is wrong. Now it's like, oh, well, now you need to win one on your own. It's like, yo, well, I already did. Steph Curry, you already did. But I think a 4th one here would really cement Steph as like one of the all-time greats. Hey, this guy was elite when he was young. Dynasty with Durant. Okay, you thought he was fell off a bit. Now he's older. New set of teammates. A little older for the core. Got some new guys in here. Oh, you want another one? I think that's huge for Steph Curry.
I also think with those with the first one, especially, they weren't supposed to really even be in the finals. We thought like, this is fun, but this
Mhm.
isn't going to work. And then because they killed the league that whole year, and then they get to the finals and they're not supposed to beat LeBron, and LeBron scoring 40 points a game, and they beat him, and it's like, well, it was Delvedova and whoever else, and then from that point on, it was like, well, they should never lose, and it was like, what? And then they got KD, and it was like these guys can never lose another basketball. Every time they
Yeah,
lost, it
right.
was front page news. And it was like, okay, that's you did this. Like you guys created this narrative and now you're running with it. And then you're like, why
Mhm.
don't people respect Stephen Curry? And it's like, you did
Right.
this. You did this. For my legacy talk, Brad, I think you're gonna love this one.
Ooh.
To me, the guy who stands to benefit the most in terms of like actual legacy is Al Horford.
Oh, I love that.
He's a five-time All-Star, one-time All-NBA third team, all defense second team once, all rookie, two-time NCAA champ. And I got this from the Ringer. This stat here: he's one of only 14 players with more than 12,000 points, 7,000 rebounds, 3,000 assists, and 1,000 blocks in their careers.
Wow.
10 of the other 13 are in the Hall of Fame, and the other three are LeBron, Powell, and Dirk, and they're all getting in the
Wow.
Hall of Fame. But Basketball Reference has Al Horford at a 12.2% chance to make the NBA Hall of Fame.
The
Al
NBA Hall
Horford,
of Fame.
Al
Okay.
Horford, if he wins a ring, is solidified in that he's not a top 100 player of all time, but you can't really get around telling this era of basketball without the Al Horford Hawks, without the
Mhm.
Florida Gators basketball team. And if he comes in here and does what I think he's going to do in the finals, and what I think he's going to do in the finals is finally he might play Draymond Green. He might make the Warriors play Kevon Looney. And I think if he does that, Al Horford is a solidified NBA Hall of Famer. No question. I think he borderline right now. I think he should probably get in anyways. This dude is been flying under the radar for 20 years. And this is the first time where people are going to be like, "Oh, Al Horford's still in the league. Al Horford just had 10 and 12 and 3 blocks. Al Horford just had 15 boards." And I think that he can stand to gain a lot. And I think people are looking at this as like a Steph thing and a Warriors thing. And Jason Tatum, Tatum's 24. He's going to have plenty of time to make a legacy for himself. I know that the narrative can get a runaway if you lose the first one. People already like aren't trying to discount like the Suns losing or Jimmy Butler doesn't get any hate. Like we forget about these things if you
Mhm.
lose to the Warriors, right? And if the Warriors win one, it's like this dynasty's insane. Steve Kerr's awesome. Steph Curry's amazing. We knew all these things, right? This is one where I think people are actually going to come to the conclusion that Al Horford is like a dollar store Tim Duncan, and a dollar store Tim Duncan's an NBA Hall of Famer.
That's a great little segment you did. I love that. Um, I always liked Al Horford. I think he's a great player. I mean, we watched him at Florida just dominate. I mean, he
I
was
hated
great,
those
great,
teams.
great. Oh yeah, Joakim Noah. I mean, Corey Brewer. Like you go down the list. Billy Donovan, obviously the head coach, and they beat Mike Conley and Greg
Yep.
Oden in one of the championships. So I mean, he's been great basically his whole career. And like, yeah, you're like, man, where was he at before the Celtics? Oh, that Hawks team, Josh Smith. It feels like it just predates a ton of stuff. Joe Johnson,
He's the only one that
and
showed
then
up for the Sixers.
robbed us blind. Um, but I love that. I mean, that's a huge one. I never thought of Al Horford for this legacy conversation. I think if I was going to do a second place for my biggest legacy builders here, I think it would be Draymond Green, to be completely honest with you, because he doesn't get the respect from the people who just watch stats or the people who just want to look at stats and like, man, Draymond Green, haha, he only has 6 points, and oh
Triple
man, yeah,
single.
triple singles. But when you watch it and you understand like what he's doing on the floor, how his impact is great, not just as a leader on the floor or off the floor, but how he controls the game. Because elite guards always control the game. Like you'll hear the old heads talking about, man, if you're a great point guard, if you're a great guard in general, who you need to control the tempo. Now, if your team needs to go slow, you make sure the game's slow. If you need it to go fast, your team you got to be pushing the pace. You got to make sure you're running at the right times or running consistently. Draymond Green always gets good shots for his teammates. He's constantly flowing. He's constantly setting screens. The key is really important. And I think with a championship where kind of like similar to Seth when we're looking at it, like, okay, you won one when you shouldn't have, and you beat LeBron, you're a big factor. Then you're kind of like the afterthought, really, with those Durant teams are like, well, Draymond's here, but like, oh yeah, wait, Draymond, yeah, he's just a yeller and he gets tech fouls. Now to be like that mature leader, I think people can appreciate his game a bit more, understanding who he is as a player. I think this would be huge for his legacy.
I think for me, second place, if I'm going to stay on the same Al Horford vein, I think these two guys are like kind of similar in a way, in that Marcus Smart and Andrew Wiggins can benefit a whole lot by winning an NBA championship. Andrew Wiggins has already made the turn from the NBA heel, right? Oh, this guy Maple Jordan, this guy sucks. And now he's a winner. He's playing winning basketball.
Yeah.
And look at what winning a title did for J.R. Smith,
right?
Or Amon Shumpert. And these guys, like, J.R. Smith was awesome. Amon Shumpert was a good player. Andrew Wiggins is like, he's giving you 17 on offense, and then he's playing good defense too. And I think him making a turn that could kill the entire, oh, this guy should have never gone number one. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, he's an NBA champion, solidified. And then Marcus Smart, the same thing. It's like people hated him for so long, and it was like, yeah, he shouldn't have done some of the things he did. Maybe he was flopping around, but like, he's a good basketball player, and the Celtics love him. And now if he wins a ring, it's kind of the floor general. And same thing as Draymond. I mean, this guy is a guy that's matured a ton, and I think the national narrative on those two could greatly benefit from an NBA championship.
Yeah, I'd love the Wiggins point too. I mean, talk about an uber talent guy who just never found his footing. Some of it his own fault, honestly, in Minnesota. Yeah. Not as aggressive as you would want him to be. Quiet kid, never going to be the face of a franchise. You just draft him talent wise and kind of hope that he would mature into it as 18-year-old. Never did. And you're getting traded first and foremost. Like, you're supposed to be able to Cleveland. You're supposed to be a young person on that team. You get flipped to the Timberwolves, which is dysfunctional. To see the way the Warriors talk about him too, how happy they are for him, you just know he's a good dude, and you know how hard he works. I'm glad he's starting to get the recognition, because you and me, we talk about Wiggins with one of our guys we used to talk to, Scott, who's a big Kansas fan. We've always known about Wiggins, not been on the Wiggins train. So to see him get his shine a little bit right now too, and people understand like how good this guy truly is defensively, can impact winning. It's not just about dropping 25 a night. You got to do little things in the sport. Speaking of Wiggins, talk about a role player who may fit into this. Most important role player. You got some interesting thoughts here, Tyson. I'm gonna let you go because I know you want a little segment on one of your boys.
Is it Time Lord?
Time Lord?
Yeah, I got Robert Williams and the gang is what I wrote in the show notes here. It's Robert Williams. It's basically all the backup bigs. You can count Grant Williams in there. When Robert Williams is on the floor, he's awesome. And when he's not on the floor, the Celtics are still really good. And I think that's going to be huge in this series, especially with a guy like Grant Williams, because if Robert Williams can't go, he's banged up, or the Warriors find a way to exploit him to the point where you can't play him anymore. If Grant Williams can come out there and play like he did against the Bucks, and be that fill-in second, third option on offense, give you one or two explosive performances, then the Celtics are going to walk away with this thing. And I think that's really, really important, because the Warriors want to go small, and the Celtics want to go as big as they can and beat the shit out of you on the glass and out-rebound you by 50 like they were doing to Miami, out-rebound you by 50 like they were doing to the Nets. They're killing the Bucks on the glass, for Pete's sakes. Like, this is a team that wants to get out there and rebound the ball. And if they can force Golden State, and that's what I was saying with the Horford point, like, if you have to play somebody who is at least the size of a modern NBA center, then that's not what Golden State wants to do. And that slows everything down. Now it's harder to find those little pet actions, pick on somebody. Mm-hmm. Kevon Looney's not putting anybody you can get around a Kevon Looney screen these days. On defense, if you get a Jason Tatum matchup on him, we get dunks, step back threes, whatever you want. In Boston, I think the bigs, I think Al Horford's going to do his thing, but I think it's Robert Williams and the backups really in Boston that have to pound the glass and make Golden State play a more physical style of basketball than they've had to play this entire playoffs. And I know Memphis is we want to pretend it's still the grit and grind stuff, and it's like those guys talk a lot, but they're not. This is not the same kind of thing.
I think you're 100% right. Like you got to, like you said too with the Celtics. I mean, you got to be the bullies. You took that mantle from the Heat. You got to apply that to the Warriors. I mean, especially a team everybody finesse this, finesse that. You got to be able to beat them up a little bit, get them off their rhythm. I think for me, you said Robert Williams game. I'm gonna go the bench mob the other way with the Warriors because the Celtics are extremely deep. Like you just ran through it. You got Robert Williams off the bench. Grant, or he's starting sometimes. Those minutes get
Ties.
kind of close. Grant Williams. I mean, just Peyton Pritchard now. Just they have guys who do certain things at certain times that Udoka brings off the bench that just make an impact at all times. For me, that's got to happen on the Warriors bench. We know Jordan Poole's there, but Otto Porter's got to step up again. I mean, Bielitsa, I think he might play some minutes. He's going to have to hit shots in this one when they spread it out. Toscano Anderson, I don't think he's going to play too much, but Damian Lee, Steve Kerr loves playing him. I mean, Moses Moody, he'll probably play because Steve Kerr plays everybody.
You got to say
your boy, Jonathan Kuminga, 2 rookies, Moody and Kuminga. I think they're going to see some minutes here to slow down Tatum, slow down Brown, just throw bodies at him. If they can do that and then give you points on the other end, which they've been doing sporadically throughout the playoffs, I think those pieces are going to be the most important in this series.
And we can't get out of this segment without Gary Payton II conversation. Like if this dude's playing, he was a key piece in their rotation for the entire regular season. He was playing well in the play, and then he broke his elbow, right, or whatever it was, and now they're saying he's going to be back. And if he plays, I think that's an added element that the Warriors can now say, all right, dude, you go get after Jaylen Brown. You go Marcus Smart 94 feet. And that's the only guy I think in Golden State that you can look to do that. So if he's ready to roll, I think that could completely change the complexion of the series. The problem is I don't believe him. I don't believe that he's all the way back ready to roll. How are you going to shoot a jump shot? Like,
I don't know.
It's just, and if he's not scoring, then good defense is good defense, and that's awesome. But Boston puts the ball in the hoop. You got to have 5 guys out there that can put the ball in the hoop. And if you're already playing Draymond, we're 3-on-5 on offense.
That's true. I mean, you probably have to play him with like that lineup, a Poole and a Moody Kuminga type of thing where he can go out and just all you got to do is play defense. Don't worry about the offense. Facilitate.
Yeah, Kuminga's shooting 17 times.
You'll take that, especially if Gary Payton's got one arm. If he can't shoot, maybe a floater or something. I don't know what else, or a dunk. I mean, whatever he can get by with. So we kind of took a cop out, though. I will say, Tyson. You said Robert Williams, and he threw some others out there. I copped out for sure. I said the bench mob. I just started naming players. For me, if I'm going to say the actual most important role player, I'm going to say it's Jordan Poole. He hasn't been here before. Out of all those, I mean, he's not a veteran. Wiggins hasn't either, but he's a veteran player. I mean, he's played a lot of minutes in this league. Jordan Poole's a young guy, and they're expecting him to come off the bench and make an impact, put the ball in the hoop, shoot threes, take pressure off of Steph and Clay when they go to the bench and when the others are in the lineup. He's going to have to be really good in this series, I think, especially like you said, the Celtics score the ball. The Warriors score as well. When does that sort of get a little spurty? We've seen it from the Warriors throughout the playoffs. Sometimes it gets a little choppy. Other times, they flip that switch and they start bombing threes, getting dunks on backdoor cuts. But against a really solid perimeter defense like the Celtics, I think scoring is going to be a little bit harder to come by. And so Jordan Poole's going to have to play really well. I think he's the guy, to me, who's got to be the most important player besides the stars.
There you go. You gave a name. I thought Marcus Smart was coming, but I don't know. Is he even really a role player?
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, it's Tatum and Brown. Marcus Smart definitely plays a role, like 3 and D, facilitate a little bit.
he's really good, man.
Yeah, he is.
But he's just like I don't know. I mean, I yeah, he's probably a role player. I mean, he's not, but he's a difference maker, and that's kind of the tough part.
True.
But so is Jordan Poole. All those guys we just named make a difference.
Now let's get into the scheme advantages here, Tyson. I'm excited to dive in this with you here because I'm hearing a lot of things out there, social media, people I talk to would talk about, oh my God, the Warriors just gonna roll the Celtics. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Like, talk me through your thought process here. Well, they're just better, man. They got Curry and Clay's back. It's like, again, walk me through how you think they're just gonna kill this Celtics team, who's had the best defense since the All-Star break, and have now had a superstar in Jason Tatum and a star in Jaylen Brown who complements him, combined with elite role players. I don't see this at all here. We'll get to our predictions in a little bit. Let's go through the scheme advantages. What do we expect from each team? Why don't you start off with what you're looking for out of this series?
I'm gonna start with the easy one, and it's the NBA buzzword from 2010 that still exists for some stupid reason: length, switchability. But in all honesty, Boston is like, this is a nightmare for Golden State, and they've dealt with nightmares in the past, and they've figured it out. That's what they do. They're a machine. But this is like, Boston is the only team that you can go back to the beginning of the Warriors finals run that has consistently given them trouble. Like from the beginning, right? And it's different coaches, different personnel, but the scheme hasn't really changed, right? I mean, Brad Stevens is up top now, but a lot of those things are still the same on defense. And this is like a new iteration of what Boston is doing. This to me, and I was thinking about this, I'm curious to see what you think. You remember when Oklahoma City was up 3-1 on the Warriors when they won 73 games?
Yep.
This Boston team feels like that Oklahoma City team to me, but with better defense. Right. I mean, you can take away a little bit of the offensive end because that was still when Russell Westbrook was just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But like that was the team that gave Golden State the most trouble. Those
Yeah.
Rockets teams gave Golden State a ton of trouble. That Cleveland team, when they ended up winning the title, they actually had a lot of switchable defenders on the perimeter.
Right.
Boston's defense is better than all of those teams. All of those teams. And I think the number one scheme thing, and I'm going to keep hammering it because I think it's the most important thing, is can Boston stay big? And if they can stay big, I think that this thing is the complete other way of the narrative right now, that Golden State's going to run away with this thing. If Boston can play the way they want to play basketball, which is punishing you, hitting the glass, and switching everything on defense and just suffocating you, then Golden State's not going to have anything for them. And I truly believe that if that is the case, then we got a 5-game series here. I don't think
You're saying Celtics will win that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But on the Golden State side, and I think this is what you were trying to say with Draymond, he has a way of hunting mismatches while he's off the ball.
Right.
So he's finding the weakest link, and they're running 70 actions this way, that way, this way, that way to get the guy to guard Draymond. He goes, sets the screens. Now we have a high pick and roll. We know Draymond's not popping. He's going to roll, take the man with him. The problem to me is, who are you hunting on Boston outside of a big? And if Boston's able to stay big, then I don't know how viable that's going to be for Golden State, because you can drag away an Al Horford 30 feet outside. Steph's still going to shoot 40%. It doesn't matter who it is on him, right? We know this. But you drag one big out, there's still another one down there to get the board. And you're one and done every time. So I think hunting those mismatches from Golden State is going to be huge. And I think getting to the rim is going to be a point of emphasis that we haven't really seen Golden State in these final runs take, right? I mean, they've been doing it more over this run, I think, than in years past. But they have to live at the rim, live at the foul line, because Boston's deep. And if you can start getting a couple of those guys in trouble, you can play the way you want to.
Mm-hmm. I think for an advantage that the Warriors are going to have that the Celtics haven't faced yet, Boston's defense is really good. But what they've become accustomed to, I think, this playoff series is isolation basketball and really slow tempo.
That's the East.
That's the East, right? That's what it is. We saw with the Nets, it's isolation basketball, Kyrie, KD. It's the Bucks, slow, bring it up, especially without Middleton. You're trying to hunt that mismatch for Giannis. You can set that defense a little easier. The Heat, I mean, that offense was atrocious, especially without Tyler Hero. Okay, we're just going to go make mismatches and Jimmy Butler will take over. Yeah, Butler gets 40, Butler gets 50, Butler gets 25, 30. But what the rest of that offense do? I mean, the Celtics should have put that series away sooner. Went to 7, whatever. But they dominated that series from a statistical and quarter win standpoint. This is a whole different animal that the Warriors throw at a defense. They don't care who's the mismatch, like you said, because Draymond Green is masterminding this whole thing from the back. It's not just like, we need Steph on a big. That's our mismatch. It's like, well, we could also take Kayvon Looney on Peyton Pritchard just on a random switch. Okay, I'm seeing that right now. Swing, swing, boom. Klay Thompson can just shoot over Marcus Smart. We'll take that on a swing around. Oh, Jordan Poole can just go right by you on this late closeout. They're just seeing this thing and they'll swing the ball around until they find something. And then just when you think you figured them out, they'll have a counter for it. Like, it's really smart basketball that the Warriors employ. It's something out of that pocket. When Popovich was, running his heyday with the Spurs, that's what it is. Steve Kerr gets this from the Spurs brand of basketball, swinging the rock. Nobody's really standing still, standing stagnant. And that's what makes you just really hard to guard. It makes any offense difficult to keep in front. If Klay's playing well, it seems like he's kind of found his rhythm and found his identity. If Steph can show up and have a huge NBA Finals performance, and if Jordan Poole isn't overwhelmed by the moment, that three-headed monster is going to make it really difficult to slow down when you have the others, the Wiggins, the Loonies, who's been playing well, Draymond Green, who all of a sudden has found a little offensive game. I mean, Otto Porter, if his foot's healthy, I mean, he can knock down some threes. The rookies have played good, Moody and Kuminga. Now you start to add this up. Okay, 6 here and there, all the way down the list. And maybe somebody gets 10. Wiggins can go for 20. Combined with the 3 good players, you're getting easy shots. If the offense works out, I think that's a huge scheme advantage for the Warriors. Something that they can take advantage of that the Celtics haven't seen. I'd be curious to see how Udoka adjusts to that, because I think it will take time. We know the Celtics adjust. That's what they've done this entire series or this entire playoff run. But I think that's right now where the Warriors have a scheme advantage on the offensive end over the Celtics defense.
And I think that's something really important to keep in mind too. When you're going to go on FanDuel and look up trying to get some player props off. I think game 1 is going to be a lot of the Warriors doing stuff that the Celtics haven't seen yet. And then I have confidence in the machine just moving forward. Okay, we figured this out. I mean, they figured everybody out and they faced ridiculous competition. But I do think game 1's going to be, it might be rain in an Oracle is what I think might happen. But another one that I think isn't really a scheme, I guess Klay Thompson might be his own scheme. But this dude, if he plays within himself and he plays, like he has been playing, and I'm not saying like this is something that he hasn't been doing, but like there have been times in this playoffs where Klay Thompson forgets, it looks like, that he's missed the better part of 3 years of playing basketball, right? I mean, and then we get game 6 Klay, we get game 5 Klay, whatever it is. Like, the Warriors need those spurts. This team, I think, relies heavily on those Klay Thompson games because, like, who wouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he's not on, I think the Warriors could find themselves in a whole lot of trouble. And I think that we've been talking about the blowouts in the NBA playoffs, and a lot of the stuff I'm seeing is Warriors blowing out Celtics, Warriors blowing out Celtics. If Klay's off, I think the Celtics can win each game by 20 points. If Klay Thompson's going 1 for 6 from beyond the arc or something, we're in trouble in Oakland. I don't think he's going to do that, but I think that's something to keep in mind. The issue with Klay Thompson is that as soon as we think he's done, right? 1 for 6, this guy stinks. He's going to hit his next 7, right? But those are like much needed, obviously. But I think Klay's got to pick his spots carefully, because if you waste a Klay Thompson game in the series, you lose the series.
Yeah, I mean, I know you wanted to get the conversation about your boy Clay going. I mean,
Love
it's
him.
night and day, though. I mean, when he's just out there running around chucking shots, you're like, dude,
Sucks.
what are you doing? But like in Game 5, man, when he lets that thing come to him, because we thought he was going to have a big-ish game with our little one of our SGPs we put out, but I swear to God, I saw him hit that first three and then hit that second. I'm like, oh, it's a Clay game today. Like I mean, he's going to go ballistic, which he did. I mean, he hit 8 threes or 7 or 8 threes. It was nuts. But he's liable to do that. I mean, he's able. Can he give you that to you every game? No. I mean, he's like you said, recovering from two major injuries. But he's good enough where if he feels his way into a game, doesn't feel like I got to get shots up, and lets the game naturally come to him, he can absolutely explode. Now, is Jason Tatum on the other end doing the same thing, and Jaylen Brown's giving you 25, and Celtics are just a little better than the Warriors today? That's when it's going to be tough. Because, like you said, then that Clay game, it just feels like that was the only one you get nowadays. So,
Yeah, that's your knockout punch, and the Warriors have been using it real wise, right? I mean, they always come at perfect times. That's what he
yeah,
does. I mean, we talked about legacies. Clay top 75 if he wins his fourth fucking NBA championship.
it's elite, like two-way player, dude. Just like top 5 shooter ever. Like, come on.
Yeah, but
I
we
mean,
got
it's nuts.
some dude from the 40s or whatever is like ranked 32.
Hey, don't be shitting on my guy Bob Cousy.
Hey man,
Come
Bob can
on
have it.
now.
It's these other ones where I'm like, I know you didn't watch him play, and I know your dad didn't, but you voted for him because you heard stories. Like
Well, Hal
that's not
Greer
what.
was good, man. I mean, you don't know how if he was tan or not, but man, he was good. I heard. Couldn't tell in those black and white pictures, but
Yo, side note, how crazy was it when Bob Cousy responded to JJ Redick?
oh yeah, like I
I
was like,
haven't heard anybody outside of
dude,
Bill Russell from that generation like once in my life. Like Jerry West and Bill Russell, and then it's like somebody from before them, and I'm like, this dude's still alive, and then he's popping off, he's firing shots. I was like,
yeah,
this
oh,
is
he was firing
sweet.
shots, dude. I was like, let's go.
I guess Wilt
You gotta give
Chamberlain's a
Bob some
plumber too.
respect.
Ugh,
Yeah, yeah.
that was laying pipe for sure.
Oh man, yeah, he definitely was. All right, Tyson. Now it's time. It feels like I know where you're going with this.
You bet.
I wonder. I'm curious. I'll let you finish it because I want to see who you think I'm going to go with here. So, who's winning the NBA Finals? 2022 NBA Finals. Tyson, your prediction is
We started in the playoffs. I told you I'm going to hold 2 tickets in the East. It's the Bucks and the Celtics. And then every single series so far, I picked Boston to win in 6 games. I think Boston wins the NBA Finals in 6 games. They're so fucking good. And people don't get it still, I think. And I know Golden State's Golden State. And look, I can see this thing going the complete opposite way. Everything you just laid out, if Boston can't do what they want to, this thing could be quick work. It'd just be another one on the mantle for these guys. I mean, they are the dynasty of this generation, right?
mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not the Spurs or the Lakers, it's the Warriors, and they're going to go down in history. I think we're still a little slow on what Boston has done over the last 5 months or whatever it is. Like, if they started the season like this and then closed the opposite route and then ran through the playoffs like this, we'd be like, oh, they're fine. They figured it
Right.
out. The line would be even, right? I mean, we'd all be like, okay, it's a toss up. But because they started the season so poorly, it was like this team, and probably poorly, they were like the 7th seed, I think, in December.
Yeah,
It was
7th
like,
and 8th. I think they're somewhere around hovering.
and they just have ran through the Bucks, who I thought were probably going to be representing the East again, ran through the Nets, ran through the Heat, and they're all similar in the way they play offense, but the defensive looks those teams gave them were just so different, right, from one to the next to the next. And I just don't think Golden State can throw anything at these guys on defense that Boston can't figure out. The question's going to be on offense, like you said. I have faith that Boston's going to figure it out because they figured it out every time it's mattered so far, and I don't see why that changes.
I've been talking a lot about the Warriors.
You're
Getting a
taking
lot
the
of
Dubs.
points.
Tatum from Duke. Let me do this in my head.
All right.
We got a Dookie, right?
Versus a player's brother was a Dookie, Curry.
I mean, based on what you said this podcast, I would think you're going to pick the Warriors. But
Okay.
from knowing you for 15 years or whatever it is, you like hard-nosed defense. Brad's got Boston.
I do have Boston.
Yes.
I got Boston. So we're on the same side here. And I think if we did this podcast 3 days ago, I would have been on the Warriors. Honestly, I think if we did it after that Game 7 in the NBA of the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm like, I think the Warriors will win this one. I didn't think they wouldn't have blown them out or anything, but I was thinking about this. And I started analyzing this in my head. I was, looking into everything. I was listening to, some of the other people kind of break down film and then some of the sharps actually in gambling, which we'll have a segment after this and we'll really dive into this from a gambling angle, but from a pure basketball angle, I started just thinking about the mismatches and how they set up and like how you describe it in the scheme. I think that's a massive advantage for the Celtics. Size has always punished the Warriors. I mean, Tristan Thompson, we saw them. Like you
Athletic
said,
size, too.
athletic size. I mean, Steven Adams, he gave him problems. I mean, the Clippers for a long time with Blake and DeAndre Jordan, like that was a tough matchup until, Doc Rivers is Doc Rivers. But I think we are discounting this team way too quick. Like, I don't know why people are just dismissing the Celtics team. It's making me want to go the other way. I think people are just not understanding. And yeah, it's the Warriors. Are we sure it's the same Warriors team? Are we sure? Because through this playoffs, they've had impressive moments. They've had not impressive moments. Boston's been nothing but impressive. I know you can say, well, they went to Game 7 and this time, and they did Game 7 this time. Yeah, against really good teams.
Won them both.
Well, yeah, one in both. Like you're talking about the Warriors blew out a Nuggets team that's like a walking infirmary. I mean, that team was literally empty in the gas tank. I mean, they were just
Ja in Memphis.
well later in the series.
Well, for the ones that really mattered, there was no Ja Morant.
And they were close and lost one. And Game 7 or Game 6 was tight for a while. And then played a Mavericks team who was on empty after just pulling off a huge upset over the Suns. I mean, yes, the Warriors are gelling at the right time. It looks like they've kind of figured it out. The Celtics been doing this since the All-Star break. Like, this is who they are. They're an elite team. And I think it's time that people will figure that out. And it's going to be too little too late on their part.
Jason Tatum, Finals MVP.
I think you gotta look at that angle for sure.
I mean, who else?
Boston.
Who else could even win it?
Should we go into money making time right now then?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with that one. That's something I haven't even put on here, but I think Jason Tatum would be, if you think the Boston Celtics are going to win the finals, Jaylen Brown's going to have to go for significantly better numbers than Jason Tatum to win this award. Al Horford's going to have to go 40, 40, 40, 40 in order to have a shot at this thing. I mean, and I keep talking about narrative, but especially in these kind of awards, it matters a ton. Like Andre Iguodala, that's a funny joke and everything, but the reason he won that finals was because it was like, well, he's holding LeBron to 40% shooting. It's like, yeah, but he's still getting 60. But the numbers had, come out and people were like, well, he's shutting him down. And it was like, it didn't matter that Stephen Curry was pretty good. It didn't matter that Draymond Green was pretty good or Klay Thompson was pretty good. It was like, we made up our minds. And when people talk about the Boston Celtics, it's always Jason Tatum 1, 2, 3, and then Jaylen Brown 4. And then you get into the others, right? But if you think the Celtics are going to win the finals, then this is a bet. Like if you're going to bet, this is a bet you have to make.
So here it is. Obviously, so the Warriors are the favorites to win the series. I have a ticket on them. So now we're money making time. Let's talk some of the gambling stuff. So I remember the last podcast we did. I said if you like the Warriors to win the championship, take them now. I have a ticket on the Warriors at -150. They're now -160 favorites to win the championship. Obviously, all odds are courtesy of FanDuel Sportsbook. Boston Celtics +135. So Tyson and I will be holding a +135 ticket for the Boston Celtics to win this thing. The Steph Curry is a +110 favorite to win the NBA Finals. I think that's actually down to even money or -110. Makes sense. If you think the Warriors are going to win, that's right there, and Curry's probably going to win this thing. Now, here's where more value comes along. Jason Tatum is plus 175 to win this thing. If the Celtics win at plus 135, you might as well just take Jason Tatum at plus 175 because he's probably going to win the thing if the Celtics do happen to win the finals. Jaylen Brown plus 1,000. Draymond Green plus 1,400. Klay Thompson plus 1,400. Jordan Poole plus 2,500. Marcus Smart plus 3,000. Wiggins plus 4,000. Kayvon Looney plus 8,000. Your boy Horford plus 10,000.
Oh, come on. He's got worse odds than Kayvon Looney?
Yeah, he does.
Leading the league in rebounds in the playoffs. Come on, people.
Derek White plus 15,000. Jonathan Kuminga plus 25,000.
That's one I'll hold for sure.
Robert Williams plus 25,000. And then a trio of Gary Payton, Moses Moody, and Bielitsa at plus 50,000. So, obviously, if you want to hold a long shot, I mean, everything else kind of a little bit longer than that. I don't know if there's.
They can't have odds for that, but that saying, like, if it's plus 10,000, you got to take it. No, you don't. You don't need to bet on those bottom guys at plus 50,000. You might as well go get yourself a cup of coffee.
Right. Here's the other thing I want to note and note as well for our listeners out there. When you're looking at these bets, and I know it's so easy to get suckered into, I need a long shot, man. If I put $10 on something, I can get rich. It's like that's not how this market works. The NBA Finals.
Stay broke.
That's how you stay broke, because look at all the past winners since Michael Jordan won in maybe even his first one. It's the best player on the best team. Jordan, Olajuwon, Jordan, Shaq. 05. What's that? Then you get the Pistons. It was Billups.
Twice.
Kobe, Pierce, Wade won one in 05 or 06, whatever
06,
that.
Yeah, 06. We got Dirk, and then we got a bunch of LeBron.
And
then we got Andre Iguodala.
Our outlier is Andre Iguodala. I was like, man, when's that one gonna hit? It's like never. We just named fucking 30 championships, and that was the first time we were like, who Iguodala? So I think you're gonna hear a lot of Draymond Green. Man, if he holds Tatum, I think there's 0% chance Draymond Green wins this award.
What would he have to average?
He would need to average a triple-double. And like Jason Tatum would have to have a really bad series.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to happen. I think if you really, the only long shot I would hold truly would be a Klay Thompson at plus 1,400, because that's a narrative thing. Wow, Klay missed 2-3 years of basketball, and look at him, he's back and he's going nuts in the finals. Man, look, Klay Thompson deserves it. That's the only one I could look at if the Warriors were to win. We already obviously talked about Klay Thompson is going to have a huge series. I don't see Jaylen Brown. I mean, he's going to have to go nuts. But the narrative's already set with Jason Tatum. I think the three bets you can make in this market is Curry, Tatum, and Klay Thompson. I wouldn't touch anybody else.
And the good news, well, I mean, I guess if Tatum were to win, you make money, right? If you hold that ticket. If Klay wins, you obviously make money. But if Steph wins, you don't make money. You lose money, that's the dangerous thing there. But, like, you can hold your Klay ticket, and I'm cheering for you, and I hope it hits. But I'm not touching that one.
That's that market. You're gonna hear a lot about that. I mean, especially as we go through this NBA Finals, especially with 3 days in between games. Just don't get suckered into any of this crap. That's what we're telling you right now as you're listening to us today. Now, individual game markets, and then let's do the series overall, and then let's do the individual game market in game one. I have an angle for you here, Tyson, that I think this is crazy to me. I can't believe they're giving this out on FanDuel. This is free money. You can do the series total games. If you think it's going to be Warriors to win 4-2, if you think it's Celtics to win 4-2, you can take the series to end in 6 games at plus 190. If you think it's going to go 7, you can take it plus 185. I will be holding a ticket for both, and I will be making money either way.
What's it to go in 5?
5 is plus 250. 4 is plus 650.
What is the? I mean, maybe they got to just be playing on everybody who's only going to hold one.
That's exactly what they're going to do. So you can hold 2 of the. I think this is going to be a long series. I think it's going to be Celtics in 7. I'm going to be holding both a 6 and a 7. So if we're wrong and the Warriors win this series, I mean, it's in 6 or 7. I don't think they're going to win it in 5. I don't think they blow them out. We're making money either way. Look into that, whatever book you're on, whether it's FanDuel Sportsbook or you got another one. Just look into that because they're asking you to put money in, and you're gonna at least make money back. So that's an angle I wanted to highlight for everybody out there.
Wow. I mean, over here in Montana, they're giving me like plus 900 for somebody to break the final scoring record. That was an actual prop that was on there today. Player to score 62 plus points, plus 900. I was like, okay, well, it's harder to make money over here. I'll tell you that
much. Any other? You want to dive into the single game market, Tyson, or do you have anything?
I mean, I Celtics in 6. That's what I got. That's what I feel.
Let's do this. Let's look at it here. You like Celtics in 6 that you're calling your shot. That's plus 440. So there you go. If you want to ride with Tyson on that, Celtics in 6 prediction, plus 440. $1 to get back 4, 10 to get back 44.
Because what I think happens, I think Golden State wins game 1. I think Boston makes insane adjustments, wins game 2. I think Boston's going to win game 3. And then game 4, the Warriors might knot it up, but I think Boston is just going to physically overwhelm them. And I know Warriors had all this rest, and that's great. We got 3 games or 3 days in between games.
Mm-hmm.
We got a week between the series. The rest argument for the finals has just always been so stupid. Once the games start, and that's where we're at. Okay, Golden State, Steph's 34, Draymond's 33, 32. Clay's coming off major injuries. He's 30 plus. I mean, it's like Jordan Poole might have a bunch of gas left in the tank, but these guys got to be strategic. Boston, these guys are over here like 24, 25, 26 years old. I think the rest thing is a little bit overblown here.
Let's get into the market. I'm looking at some crap here. I'm getting suckered into some stuff which I don't want to give out. So let's just get into game 1, the first game market here. We'll have some picks to wrap this up. Then I'll have some others we can touch on. Hockey obviously is underway as well if you follow that, and then golf. Some people may not be able to get the future in time, but maybe get the live future in time. So I'm not sure if you've taken a look at that, but we'll get there when we cross that bridge. Let's finish NBA right now. Game 1, Thursday, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. Boston Celtics are a 4-point dog right now. The Warriors are giving -4. The money line, if you think Boston's going to win outright, plus 142. If you want to lay it with the Warriors, -168. The over-under is set at 212.5. Anything tickle your fancy in this one?
I think Golden State covers. I think they win by more than 4 points. Like I said, I think that this is going to be we're back. And then I think we're about to kick this thing up into overdrive. This thing's ended in 4 games. Boston has nothing for them. I think Golden State's going to win by more than 4 points. That over-under is pretty interesting because Boston has been in some absolute dogfights so far this playoffs, and they've also dropped 130 points at others, right? I think that game 1, I think we might see an under here at 212.5, and I'm saying that thinking the Warriors are going to score over 110 points. I don't know how close this one's going to be. I just have a feeling that we're NBA champion. You guys got to beat us. And I think that Boston's going to be hurting after game 1. And I wish we got to hear Chuck talk about
it. Yeah, I know. It's heartbreaking that they're done for the year. I'm with you. I like the Warriors to cover this as well. Boston has to go down to Miami, come back up. They either stayed in Miami and partied or went back up to Boston and partied. I think probably the first option is the better option. But they're celebrating the Game 7 win. Then you got to go out to the West Coast. And you got to play in a game that's in an arena that's pretty foreign. I like the Warriors get this done. I think you're right. They're going to come out. They're going to have something like, hey, Celtics aren't expecting this. Kerr's good at adjusting a pre-flop before the game starts. I think that's when the Celtics will see what the Warriors have done, and the series is going to go a little bit longer. But I like the Warriors in game 1. 212.5 I'm intrigued by because, like you said, the Celtics have been in a dogfight. But they can get hot, and it's not like the Warriors are any of the defenses that the Celtics have faced so far in the playoffs, besides the Nets. I mean, they could go ballistic. This could be a high-scoring game, and we may see an early adjustment to what the odds maker is going to set this total at. I'm leaning over in that. I might be holding a ticket. My official play is going to be Celtics -4.
Warriors.
Or Warriors -4. I'm sorry. Thank you, Tyson.
If it's official, we got to get it right.
Yeah, exactly. NHL real quick. If you guys didn't see the Oilers Avalanche game, there was 14 total goals scored in the game.
So crazy.
The over-under set at 7.5 for the next one. I took it at 7.5 in game one. I'm not backing off this. The Oilers are on a different level right now. They just score goals. Darcy Kemper, the Avalanche, the goalie's Avalanche. He's got a hurt eye or something. Like he's not seeing straight. Even if they put in the backup, I think the Oilers just going to keep it going. Plus, Mike Smith, the goalie for the Oilers, dude, that he's 40 years old in net, man. You're telling me he's got enough like reflexes that stop what's coming at him, especially that attack from the Avalanche, who's just pure speed. I'm pounding this over. Like I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna hit this thing. I'm root for good hockey. I have an Oilers ticket to win the Stanley Cup at 8-1. So I'm just hoping they can get by the Avs here. I may take a look at Oilers money line as well. They got blitzed in the first game against the Flames last series. They responded with an ass whooping of their own. It's hockey time, baby. Let's go.
And he's been on fire, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this kid's filling out W-2s every other day with these hockey bets. FanDuel has to. Did they bring the Brinks truck to your apartment, or did you have to go get the money?
I'm afraid to go get it because I think they might put a hit out on me. So I tell them a warehouse and then send a number runner to go get it for me. I got
right. Yeah. Real quick before we get out of here, I do got a little spicy same game parlay for the folks.
Okay.
Like I said, I think Steph's gonna just go crazy. I think this is after game one, you're gonna see a headline somewhere about like a coronation. Like they're back. This is what they do. I think Steph has over 27.5 points. I think Steph has over 4.5 threes. I think Marcus Smart has over 4 assists. And I think Al Horford has 12 plus boards. That's the one. And that right there, that's plus 10-20.
Ooh.
Right there. And you might say 12 rebounds is crazy. He's getting played off the court. And if you feel that way, go bet his under. I, for one, think that Al Horford is going to dominate on the glass to start game one. Because I think a lot of the guys in Boston, I mean, they've been in massive spots. This is different. And I think we're going to see a lot of missed shots here. I think Al Horford's the one guy that's been around the block long enough. He's going to have his head on. He's going to be playing his ass off. And I think 12-plus rebounds is something he can do. And if you don't believe me, he's averaging 9 in the playoffs. This wouldn't be something super out of the ordinary here.
PGA Tour real quick for me. I'm going to play 4 guys I'll give out on the show. Rahm's the favorite plus 1,000. He was leading the Memorial last year before he had to pull out. I think he's going to get it done this year. I'm also going to take a shot at Morikawa at plus 1,900.
Your boy.
His putter has sucked. I mean, it's been horrible. But he's a great ball striker. If he can just get something to roll on these greens, he may run away with this thing. I'm also going to take a shot on Cameron Young plus 3,500. Dude's been a top 5 machine. His first win is coming. Plus, he's from Westchester, so shout out to the area. And then Joaquin Neiman at 41 plus 4,100. That's way too long for somebody with his talent. If he puts together a good week, he's gonna be in contention, and especially if he gets the putter rolling. I mean, he's way too good of a ball striker to be plus 4,100. So, really like those 4 names. And if you're listening to it later, keep an eye on the live line. I mean, these things update all the time. I hit Sam
made
Burns
50
last
grand
week.
on Justin Thomas.
Yeah, guy made 50 grand on Justin Thomas. I mean, Sam Burns won last week. I had him before the tournament at plus 28 or at 28-1. I think live in the tournament because he was 7 or if he was 5 shots back. I think he was like 75-1. Like you can pay attention here, and if one of these guys named is in contention, I definitely fire on them because they're definitely the class of this tournament.
I think if you're a believer in momentum, I think Matt Fitzpatrick at plus 2,400 is not a bad call either. Problem is, can you string all these things together if we haven't seen it before?
Exactly. All right. Well, that does it for our NBA Finals preview, plus a little money-making time. We want to get you guys a little cash. So tail us, fade us, whatever you want to do. I mean, we're doing pretty well. So,
A little 60%, a little
yeah,
62%.
yeah, to hop on board with us here. Also, did want to mention, Tyson gave out his SGP. We're going to be doing a prop of the day for each game in the finals. So make sure you're following us on social media because it's going to be on our Instagram at _ the roundtable pod _ It's going to be on our TikTok at _ the roundtable pod _ or follow us on Twitter as well at TRT _ pod. So make sure to follow us there. We're going to be posting more content. I always say this. We're going to get it rolling so that, you can interact with us a little bit more than just watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, although we do appreciate that support as always. And if you're liking, if you're subscribed already, and if you're sharing this with your friends, thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate you doing that for us and appreciate you supporting us any way that you can. Tyson, absolute pleasure as always. Again, we thank you all for listening. And until next time, everybody, peace.